Hi, this is Linda with Casey Creations. Long time coming, but here is the tutorial for my first newsletter. I have chosen to use Polka Art Studios set. It's called the Clockmaker, and I've also used some of her steampunk papers. And I've only printed out a few, so I can show you what we're going to be using here. Beautiful papers. It's kind of clockwork with a little bit of steampunk put in there. Very tastefully done. I think it's gorgeous. A lot of lavenders. But we're going to make one section today. I'm going to show you how I make the floating pockets and all of that. Now, I've taken the journal pages that you've just seen, and I have resized some of them. These are 4x6, and these are 5x7s. And I just selected a few, because that's how we're going to make our first one. Just pick two of your papers, whichever you would like. Put these to the side. Sorry, that's my grand dog. First, we're going to make the cover. So we're going to cover, and these are 8.5 by 11. We're going to cover one whole side here. And as you know, the glue I use is Aleene's Tacky Glue. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I love it. You can use whatever glue you prefer. It needs to be a liquid glue, not a glue stick. And I'm going to show you how to put the pockets on, make them flip. And then we'll continue on with this. In another tutorial, we'll add the pockets, we'll decorate it with ephemera, put some dangles on it. But we're going to make an entire journal here. Make sure you get your corners. And because we fold this in half, I always make sure that I've got a really good layer of glue right down the center, because that's where we're going to fold it. And we don't want any creases, or as few as we can get. And we can rub most of those out with a bone folder. I always double check to make sure I've got my paper in the same direction, and then we're going to line it up as perfectly. I'm going to stand here so I can look down on it. Line it up, and the liquid glue allows you to kind of adjust, slip and slide, and even though you do your best, sometimes we have to do some trimming. That's okay. We have a craft knife for that. You want to give it a good press, especially in the center. Kind of press it in both directions, smear that glue around. And as you know, I am an inker. Oh, we did pretty good on this one. I don't see any trimming right now. So I'm going to ink mine. You do not have to do this. It's whatever you prefer. Take it and run it down. These are called finger daubers. I just get them on Amazon. They're very inexpensive. But I like these better than the larger ones, because when you do fussy cuts and all that stuff, you can get in all the little cracks and crevices. Because I have this thing about white paper showing. Flip it over and do the other side. Now, what we're going to do, take it, and if you want this to be your front, then you're going to fold it this way. If you want this to be your front, we're going to fold it this way. So that's up to you. Get the edges lined up here, and always crease it in the center first, and then go to the outside. Then you can use your bone folder a good crease, and you want to come in about an inch. Look at it. We've got a few creases. I don't know if you can see that. Just rub them out. And if you let it dry a little bit first before you fold it, it cuts down on the creases. And cover our fold. There we go. Now, we need to select a picture that we're going to attach all of our flips and fold outs to. So just grab whatever you would like. I think I will use, there's so many to pick from, and like I said, I only printed off a few. I'm going to choose this one. It's 8.5 by 11, so at first I'm going to cut this at 5.5, and then I'll be cutting it down more. This is going to be our panel that is going to glue down on the inside of our folder cover here. And I usually just kind of line it up with a pencil. You can mark if you want. It's about 1/4 of an inch I'm taking off of each side. And by taking it off each side, that keeps our image in the center. Okay, we've got the width now. Let's make sure we get the top and bottom, and we're going to do approximately the same amount. Take off about 1/4 of an inch. And if there's any, I'm going to take more off the top now that I have really looked at this. Erase my mark here, because I don't want to cut too much of this off, so I'm going to trim off right where the image is in there. And that's approximately not quite 1/4 of an inch. Then line it up. It's right here. Here's the end of the folder. And we'll take some off the top. And that's about 1/4. You size it the way you like it. There's no rule that says you have to do it a certain measurement. And that's going to fit in there nicely, and it's going to allow plenty of room for this to close over, and it's not going to touch our edge. So we can set our folder cover aside for now. And we can ink this one up. When we move on to the pockets and all the ephemera that we're going to add, I will show you the rest of the kit. It's really nice. It's beautiful colors. Okay, there's our base. Now let's put a long flap on it. You can either use one of the journal pages, or you can use the backing papers in it, and I printed off some of the steampunk ones to use. Let's see, let's take one. Let's use these clocks here. It's going to flip over on this side, so I'm going to put about a 1 inch. I'll show you in a second here. You don't ever need more than 1 inch for your flap. You can put, let's do 3/4 on this one. Fold it. Fold it in. And we're going to use our base piece as a measurement. We're going to get it lined up in here to make sure they're the same size, because remember we trimmed off a little bit of our main panel here. Cut off the bottom, because we're going to fold this over. Lined up on our rack. I save every little sliver of scraps. I have a little basket there. I toss it in because I never know when I might need just a little bit. Now we're going to line this up. I'm going to stick it up here so I can see. And I want my first one to be about here. And that is approximately, let me give you some measurements here the best I can. It is 4 1/8 wide is what I've chosen to do. Score it down. Fold it over. Here's our little flap. Fold it in. I'm going to put a mark here. And that's what we're going to cut off. Save your little pieces. Now, because I don't like any white showing anywhere, and you can always see it in a fold, I always ink up that fold. It doesn't have to be neat. You just want to cover it. And I want to cover up this edge. And this is going to go right here. So let's glue it all down. And I'm gluing the panel that folds over. This is my flap. Make sure you get your edges good. Keep a paper towel handy. Fold it over. Good press. Now we're going to take our little flap here, angle off the corners. Do not cut your fold line off. Just cut right up to it, like so. Put some glue on it. Do not get up to your paper there. Stay about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit less, away from it. I'm going to put this up against here, getting it lined up. If you'd hold your paper straight there, lightly press it down and then gently fold it over. That's going to allow the paper to move where it needs to be. Sometimes it moves too much and we just need to adjust it. That's okay. Not a problem at all. This little guy is being really cranky. Let's give him a harder press. There we go. See that my ink here? That would normally be white if we hadn't inked it. Give it a good press. Now let's take one of our 5x7s, and you see the there's white on the end. We're going to use this as the fold. So we're going to cut out this, leaving this white here. Cutting right along the bottom. Cut the top off. And because it's going to fold this way, we're going to trim the right side off. Now I'm not going to make a fold on the scoreboard. I'm not going to score it. I'm going to fold it. The only thing I'm going to score is our little tab here. Line it up. And these black lines do not come on a scoreboard. I put those on there so that when I line it up, I can line up my top and my bottom right in the middle of the score. Because if this was not straight across here, this would not be straight. So I always use this as a guide. Fold it in. Now, here's where we're going to fold. Here's your card. We're going to take this and fold it right to that score line. And I mean over the score line. Gently hold it. Push in your flap and you can feel it sliding under your fingers. And that's giving it enough so that this will fold nicely, but it is still butted right up against it as close as it can be. So let's ink this one. Now I'm going to make the top of my card is going to be open. This part here is going to be open, so I'm going to ink that. So when I put my card in there and you open it up to do so, you won't see any white. Do our edge, that's going to butt up against the fold, and do our flap. It's going to fold like this, and go right there. So we're only going to glue on the bottom and on the side. Just put a thin line of glue. Over, give it a good press. V our little tab here, right up to the score line, but again, do not cut it off. Ink the rest of it. And let's get this guy inked up. This is our little fold we made. Inside. And you could have inked this up before you glued it. It doesn't matter either way. It's small enough we can still work on it very easily. We're going to put glue on our little flap. Again, do not get up to the score line, just a tiny bit away from it because the glue will smear and spread out. Line up your bottom. Stand it up straight, give it a little press, and again fold it over. We'll see how it looks. Looks pretty good. And by folding it over like that before you really press it down, it allows this to slide where it's room enough to fold over. If it was butted right up against it and you forced it to stay there, then your card is not going to lay flat. It'll buckle. Give it a little press. Now let's take one of our 4x6 cards. Here, I'm going to use this one here. And again, we're going to leave the left side. We're not going to cut it. So if you're looking like this is the top. Excuse me, still got the cough. We're going to cut off the top, the right side, and the bottom. My cough is getting better. Hopefully you won't have to listen to me too much longer. I don't need this much, so I'm going to put the edge of the print right at the 1-inch mark and cut off the excess. We don't need all that. Get our scoreboard. Line it up. And if you're using a stylus, use the large end, not the small end. The small end will cut through your paper. And you press firmly, but not hard. Just enough to get you a good fold. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold it over, covering up the score line. Push our tab over and give it a crease. Ink again. And let's have this one coming out, let's see. Let's have it coming out from the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to ink up the fold where the picture is halved, right here. Now when we're going to glue, because we're going to open this up, we're going to glue along the bottom, the side, and the top. Over, give it a good press. You can use your bone folder if you want. Cut off our little corners. This is what we have. We're going to trim a tiny sliver off of that fold. Okay, my camera stopped, so we're a little bit off here, but what I've done is I cut my little sliver off, which you saw, inked all around it. I actually had to pull this off, so that's why mine is kind of ugly there. Put some glue on our flap. Stay away from your fold, just the tiniest amount. Right here, line it up with the bottom. Now this time when we fold it over, it's not going to be as close because this little guy is now going over the 2 levels underneath it. So we're going to try the best we can. That worked out pretty good. Give it a press. And there we go. We've got these flaps done for the left side. Let's do the right side. I'm going to pick this one. We're going to put a score line about 1 inch on the side, and it's going to be on the right side of our paper. over. And we're going to make a pull-out on this one. So let's put it down a little bit so we can see the top of our paper. And I think about 4 inches should be good. Yeah. Looks good. Because I want enough space from where the flap ends to the fold line here where we can put a big card in here and have room enough to pull it out. So about 4 inches. Here's my flap, 4 inches from the fold to here. Fold it over, fold your flap in, put a mark there. That's where we're going to trim it off. Save our little piece. Now let's see how long we want it. And because most of my picture is at the bottom, I'm going to cut off from the top. So I'm going to line it up with the bottom. Put a little mark there. Right at the edge here. And if you don't have a scoreboard, you can just use a ruler and a craft knife. Ink up our fold. Because we're going to make a sliver in this like we did in that little pocket, we're going to ink this all up. And I use Vintage Photo. That's my go-to. Get our edge here where it butts up against our flap. Now we're going to glue the bottom, the side, and the top. Not here, not on our fold. Because we're going to trim a little piece of that off. Just like we did for the little one. Sure it's all covered good. Fold it over. Give it a good press. Now let's trim our little sliver off. Teeny tiny little bit. Let's get it inked up. And on this one, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to open the card back up where we glued. It's going like so on our panel. Let's put a top flip. So what we're going to do, and I glued this so that you can see what happens if you decide to do something later. Remember, we cut this open? So we're going to take our bone folder, we're going to go in and just open that up just like that. And let's take another one of our 5x7 cards we made, these. Cut off the bottom. We're going to cut off the bottom and both sides. We're going to cut the card in half. And I will explain why I did it that way in just a second. If we had just folded it over like it was like this, when we flip this up, this image would be upside down. So we need to cut them in half so that when we glue them, we can turn, when it flips open like this is right side up. We're going to cut off the top of this, because our fold is on the other piece. And we have got 1/4 of an inch is what this is. We need just a little bit more, so I'm going to go to 1/2 an inch. Put a fold line at the top of the card and fold it over. Ink up our fold line. Ink up the bottom, because we're going to have a card sliding in. You can take this card, and it will be longer because remember we made 1/2 an inch up here, so we have lost about 1/4 down there because we already had a 1/4 of an inch here. So I went in 1/4 of an inch to make it 1/2. So this is going to be longer. And I don't want to lose this image. I'd rather lose the top. So we're going to put it in there like that. You can see that's what we're going to trim off. Line there. So the card is going like this. Fold it up. Show you one more time. This is how it's going to fit. We can take it, fold it over. This is our back piece. We want it right side up, so it's going to go like this. So we're going to ink this edge. And we're going to put glue on the sides and the bottom. We're going to put it right up against our fold line, get it lined up. We might have to do a little trimming, we'll see. There's our little opening here. My bottom is hanging off just a little bit. Take the craft knife and just even it up. Looks good. Ink up our fold. Let me give this a little bit extra. Now here's our panel. It's open here. Here's our little flap that is going to go like so. And we're going to put our little card we just made right here. Cut off your little tabs. Don't cut the fold. Here's our flap. Here's where we opened it up at the top. I'm going to stick this little guy in there. Get him centered between where the fold is there and the edge. Push it as close as you can get. Gently fold it over, just like we did the others. Give it a press. See how it did. I'm going to scoot it down just a little bit. I want it a little bit tighter. And sometimes it'll scoot on you. That's okay. Just pick it up and redo it. Give it a press. And this is what we have now. Glue our top back down. I'm always changing my mind when I'm making something. I never do it the same, so I thought, maybe I want a top one on that. So I showed you how to get it off. And that only works when you've got an open end where you can get your bone folder in. If this was glued down all solid, this piece, you couldn't open it back up. Just gonna go on like so. Cut our ends off. Right up against it as close as you can get. Gently press, gently fold it over. See how we did? Perfect. So we can give that a hard press now. And we have this. And let's put one down here. Let's use one of our, let's see, shorter ones. I think I have an extra here somewhere. Yes, this one. This is where I cut the other one off. So we're going to fold it from the right. So we're going to leave this tab. We're going to cut the top, the side, and the bottom off. And we really don't need all this, so let's line up the end of our picture here at the 1-inch mark. Put out some extra. Score our little flap here. Fold in our card over the score line, holding it gently, fold in your flap, make a little crease. Like that. We're going to have a pull out from the top. Excuse me. Ugh, I hate this card. So, ink up the top of the card. We're going to glue the side and the bottom of the flap part, this piece here. Give it a press. Make sure you always get your corners good. Trim off our little corners. going to go right here. Put our blue there on the flat, on the inside. Slide it in there. Get it as close as possible. Gently fold it over. Scoot it in a little bit more. That's why you want to use liquid glue, because it lets you play with it for a little while before it sets up. Looks good. Here. And that creates our first section, so you can have fun playing with that. Again, the set I used is called the Clockwork from Polka Art Studios, and I'll put that in the description box for you. It also comes with a ton of ephemera, and then I used her steampunk papers. So stay tuned for part 2, ladies. Have fun. Give it a try. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Bye-bye.